What if Damon wasn't a dog?
What if Kevin wasn't from St. Louis?
Well, what if you didn't like getting in Twitter beefs?
What if we just started the show? Welcome on in, guys, to the AZ Wildcats Podcast. I'm your host, Damon Fairall. He is Kevin Thomas, and we are in the lovely, the beautiful PHNX HQ2, heading into our move to HQ3 here in the coming weeks. But we appreciate everybody for being here off the top of the show, doing something a little bit different today. Obviously, debuting this show later in the day at 7 p.m. Newsflash. This is recorded, so we won't be able to be interacting with you in the comments, but shout out everybody for being here. We're going to be detailing the biggest what-ifs in Arizona Wildcats athletics history here as we get later into the show. But before we do have some quick news and notes that we're going to hit on, starting with Kevin.
Yeah, so as we all know,
How was your move?
I am moving. I am pretty much moved in as the basketball and football guy who we know is here in this future universe. He's probably thinking, how many times am I going to hear about Kevin's move before this man is actually moved in? But this is not about my move. This is not about my interpersonal dealings right now. This is about repping the U of A. You see down there at the topic bar, we have the topic flying the flag. And you might be like, what the hell is that? I have a flagpole in this new place that I'm renting, Damon. I've never really had a flagpole before. And I asked my girlfriend if I could fly a U of A flag on the flagpole in front of our house. And she said, go for it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm thinking, she gave me an inch. Do I take a mile? And so my question to you in the future hypothetical chat is, how big of a flag do I get? Do I get like a cartoonishly large U of A flag? Or do we keep it respectable? Do we keep it legible so people can really see the big block A, or the traditional cactus logo? I have yet to decide on a design.
It's an interesting question, Kevin. I guess I would raise you, like when they do the Super Bowl and they bring out the flag on the field and they bring it over across the entire 100 yards. I think that size flag is apt. I think that a flag that covers the span of your entire apartment complex would probably be just fine. Maybe provide some shade. You know what I mean? Maybe provide some shade for the other people here. I mean, we know All Pro Shade Concepts does homes, but do they do apartment complexes? I mean, maybe you have to take matters into your own hands there. Yeah,
maybe I could be the All Pro Shades Concepts for my neighborhood with the U of A flag that I'm planning on flying. But I plan on flying the U of A flag so proudly because it's an insanely great athletic program that we do support here, Damon. The U of A athletics program, all of them, the programs as a whole, is very healthy right now. I understand that we might have our questions about little intricacies of each program and how they can move forward. But I think overall, if you talk about the health of Arizona athletics, it is a very healthy program right now as a whole. One of just 3 programs with a first-round pick in both, or I guess all 3, the NFL, NBA, and MLB, joining UNC, Michigan, and Arizona. They're joining themselves in this group of 3. Michigan, the only one to have one in the NFL, MLB, NBA, and the NHL. So chew on that,
Pretty insane.
the rest of us here. But yeah, I mean, incredibly proud to be repping and flying the flag for the U of A. But yeah, one of just 3 programs with a first-round pick in 3 of the 4 major sports is incredible. Damon, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only 3 major sports that we have on campus, so it's not as if we're just slacking on the hockey side of things. We just don't have a hockey program.
You could say that's slacking in its own way, but yeah.
Well, I mean, most West Coast schools don't have hockey programs. There's really one that does.
That's a good point.
So, I mean, I also remember when they beat our club hockey team by 20 goals, and it was the greatest moment in ASU sports history.
Yeah, and then they're also adding
Special, dude.
They're also adding that Potter kid to the list of people that didn't do anything for their university but went to the pros, and so now it's going to be like, isn't he the greatest Sun Devil of all time?
Yeah.
And it's like, he didn't do anything really of note for you guys, but that's neither here nor there. This is a U of A show, and we're here to rep one of the top 3 athletic programs in the country right now, if you want to cut it that way, in terms of getting people from college to the pros. And yeah, this is the first time, as Justin Spears has put out there over the last couple of days, that Arizona has had such a thing happen. The last time was 2008, when you had Antoine Cason enter the NFL, Jared Bayless enter the NBA, Ryan Perry and Daniel Schlereth enter the MLB in the first round. So Arizona making some history here in the great year of 2025, Damon. Very excited to talk about that.
I would
today.
be interested to see how many years we would have reached that threshold if you could add an NFL first rounder. You know what I mean? Where it's like, how many years did Arizona have an NBA and an MLB first rounder? I would imagine that it's quite a few in that case. But the NFL is really that when you're talking about getting the 3 major sports on campus into the pro ranks of their respective sports, I think that it really almost entirely is based off of whether or not the football program can produce a first round pick or not. And you saw it here with Tyrell McMillan, with Antoine Cason, obviously in this 2008 example, where when Arizona does have that elite caliber talent in its football program, they are a pretty well-rounded athletic department from top to bottom, because the baseball program and the basketball program are always at the top, always elite. And yeah, you love to see it, man. 7 Wildcats taken on day 2 of the MLB draft. Per Jenna Fink, 9 overall selected in the draft. And also per Jenna Fink, tied for 3rd most in the nation among all universities from a baseball standpoint in number of draft picks. So incredible season for Arizona baseball continues and culminates with the draft experience, if you will, with multiple players being selected and kind of just the prominence of this program really being seen on full display. But another thing I wanted to bring up real quick before we get into the honorable mentions portion of our Arizona what ifs, Kevin.
Ooh.
Did you happen to see how many players ASU baseball had picked?
No, Damon, I didn't. Please enlighten us all as to how many players ASU baseball had picked in the MLB draft.
Well, in the MLB draft, ASU baseball on day 1 alone had 9 players selected. I mean, an incredible season from ASU baseball, right? With numbers like that, you'd have to imagine that they waltzed.
Well, they
waltzed through the NCAA tournament, right?
They're polishing their national title right now, right?
Moonwalked to the College World Series. Limboed to the national championship game.
Well, that means they won the conference at least. Certainly.
Did the jitterbug in the national championship in lieu to their
doing the running man,
their 6th national title in baseball? No, absolutely not. ASU is a total, complete, and utter embarrassment. But at least they continue their MLBU reputation, per Blake Neiman of I believe Fox 10 here in Phoenix. Shout out Blake Neiman. Great work. No disrespect or shade towards him whatsoever. Just making fun of our good buddy old pals up here in the valley, Kevin. But
we're just flying the flag right now. We're just flying the flag.
We are flying the flag, literally and figuratively here in the near future. But yeah, ASU with just pipeline to the pros, man. Pipeline to the freaking pros, and that's why they've been so successful over the course of these last few decades. But got to keep Willie Bloomquist there forever. That's what I say. I say Willie Bloomquist, sign him up to a lifetime contract.
I mean, I don't know even where to go from there. I'm over here imagining, the size of the flag that I'm going to be flying and hoping that an ASU fan lives in my neighborhood, which is statistically likely. And so I feel like, I'm really doing the Lord's work, because they might think they're MLBU, but, let's talk about flag size here.
Extra option for you. We could do, Calvin and Hobbes, Calvin peeing on the ASU fork logo as the flag. Just a thought, something to put out there into the environment, out into the universe, and you can do what you must with your flag. But hey, that's just something that I wanted to throw out there on the table, Kevin.
That's a great what if. What if I had that flag up? And then what if my girlfriend left me because I have a photo of a cartoon character peeing on a trident?
What if my house was invaded by ASU Sun Devil cretins?
What if I got my house egged on purpose?
what if we talked about the honorable mentions in Arizona athletics history here, Kevin, and got into it right off the jump? Because we did have so many great selections that were thrown our way by all of you people. Kevin this morning asked the question on his Twitter account, what are some of the biggest what ifs in your guys' eyes? And Kevin, blown away by the amount of responses, blown away by the interaction on that tweet, and definitely helped us put together and formulate our own list. If you guys disagree with anything on our list, drop it in the comments. Let us know what you think. Drop it in the live chat, of course. But also, just tell us how big stupid, dumb idiots we are, I guess, because
let it all out.
Yeah, let it all out, man. If you think that we're dead wrong, or we didn't value something high enough, or we didn't value it, it's too overvalued, let us know here. But we'll start things off with one of our first honorable mentions, one that was sent to us quite a bit, Kevin. What if Cody Raymer was called safe in the 2016 National Championship Game 3 when it was still tied 0-0 against Coastal Carolina?
I mean, I do want to shout this one out. I'm glad that we have it first on our honorable mentions, because this is truly one that, and again, shout out to everybody that responded to that tweet. I kind of expected the responses to look like that SpongeBob, another verbal meme of the gang's all here. And actually the gang was all there. So shout out to the gang. Shout out to all the U of A fans that responded to that with their favorite and sometimes most painful what ifs. I know that's not always the most fun thing to look back on, right? Yeah, it is a little bit of event sesh, a little bit of a pity party in a way. But
there's some positive ones too. That's the special thing about this what if is we had to value the what ifs of the positive versus the negative and how we rank them top 10. Kind of an interesting process. And
honestly, there's a 1,000 ways to eat this Reese's, right? You know what I mean? Like there are so many, like you could go 1 to 10, just full dreamland with what ifs. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And not really base yourself in reality. I think you and I tried to do a little bit of both with a heavier lean towards dealing in reality. But then when we extrapolate how these things affect the program, you get out into fantasy land. But I think that we're starting with Cody Raymer. Everybody in our replies was saying Cody Raymer was safe. He was safe. Should not have been called out. Blah, blah, blah. Check the tape. Go back and rewatch it. Damon and I went back and rewatched it again for the purpose of this exact segment. And man,
he's safe
as hell. Safe as hell. Safe and sound like a newborn baby in a crib. He should have been. But no, that was not the case. And they did call him out. And I couldn't believe it upon further review. Because I mean, Damon, we've outlined it, I am not from Tucson, so these scars don't go nearly as deep as it goes for some other people. However, I'm still an Arizona Wildcat, so I still feel the I don't know, like
the hurt of your people.
Yes, thank you, Damon, thank you.
The tribulations of your constituents.
I understand the plight, and I think that this Cody Raymer call was so egregious.
Yes.
It nearly cracked the list. There are some other things on this list I think you'll understand as to why it didn't make the top 10. There's just so many what ifs in the history of this program. But
apparently we're like what if university.
maybe, I don't know. But Cody Raymer, he has to lead off this honorable mentions category because he should have been called safe at home. Arizona should have gone up 1-0 in that game. Mm-hmm. Teams that went up first in that tournament, I believe, were 14-3 that year. I'm getting that from All Sports Tucson, I believe, in the back of my memory somewhere. So if that's wrong, come at me and then I can go at them. But yeah, this would have set up Arizona much easier to win that game that they ended up losing by just 1 run. So you never know that. Like I think part of the reason why this doesn't make the full list is because Arizona still has to go win that game.
It was so early in the game. You never know what could happen. Coastal could score 5 the next inning, but
precisely.
100%. Yeah, it's one of those situations where Arizona lost by a run. That's 1 run right there. What if he was called safe, man? What if the ump made the proper call and ump totally just made a call about like ball got there first, so I'm calling him out because that hand got in there. And I'll be honest, I somewhat deleted that from my memory because the scar was too strong in my head. And rewatching it reopened that wound, Kevin. That one hurt. 2016 should have been Arizona's 5th national championship in baseball. And that's how we start off our honorable mentions on these what ifs.
Woo!
Second one we're going to get into here. What if Steve Kerr didn't blow it in the 1988 Final Four? The 1987-1988 Arizona Wildcats team, Kevin, was 35-3 on the season, 17-1 in the Pac-10 conference. They were the best team in college basketball all year long. They had the #1 player in college basketball in Sean Elliott. They had another absolute star and Steve Kerr. And unfortunately, they also had Kenny Lofton on that team.
Yep.
Ever heard of him? Borderline MLB Hall of Famer. I mean, he's probably not going to reach that threshold, but he's one of the greatest base stealers in MLB history, and he played basketball on that Final Four team. So really, really interesting stuff there. But
kind of like a little bit of an old Pueblo Julius Peppers in a way.
Yeah, a little bit. But Steve Kerr was great all season long. Averaged 12.6 points per game on extremely efficient shooting. Kevin, he shot 57% from three, my brother. 57% from three on 5 attempts a game.
And it's a wonder.
Back in 1988, like that, they must have thought he was a goddamn witch. They must have thought he was a wizard. It's the Salem witch trials. Let's burn this guy at the stake. He's doing magic out there. And then Steve Kerr in the 1988 Final Four against Oklahoma shoots 2 of 13 from the field. And the Arizona Wildcats go on to ultimately lose that one.
Yeah, no, I was going to say it's no wonder that he went on to be the spearhead of the greatest shooting team of all time. I mean, the guy knows what it takes to successfully set up a shooter. So, yeah, no, I mean, that is one of the greatest what ifs. What if you're one of your most consistent shooters of all time didn't have an off night on the one night that you can't afford for him to have an off night? That is another one. I think 2001 is another Final Four what if Jason Gardner was able to have a better game in that one. I know there were some extenuating circumstances with that one, but he did go 2 for 11 in that game. And I know the whole thing of like context matters up until a point. And I think that point is like you played in the game. If you were fine enough to play in the game and the coach put you out there to play and you go 2 for 11 over 40 minutes in a game that you lost by just 10, and we're going to get to this game a little bit later and Jason Gardner again a little bit later. But I think that performance does go into this what if category, specifically for the honorable mentions.
Yeah. Steve Kerr, he was 2 of 13 in that game. Sean Elliott had 31 points in that game, Kevin. And the Wildcats ultimately lose by 8 points. So, I mean, I think that in a regular Steve Kerr shooting night, that's at least a coin flip game at the very minimum. And Arizona might go on to win the national championship. Oklahoma did not win the national championship. I believe they lost to Kansas in the Natty. But I think when that Arizona team has 3 losses all year, 35-3, I think you gotta that's including the Oklahoma loss. So they were 35-2. I think that you have to almost give the edge to them and say that that's the best team in the country. Like they have a better chance of winning. They win 7 out of 10 of those games or something like that. An extremely big what if here. Another one, Kevin, one of the more fun ones we have here on this list.
Maybe my personal favorite.
It is from just let's get off the walls.
Yes.
Let's get wild. Let's get crazy. Let's get weird.
There are no restrictions with this one.
No, there really isn't.
You can take this one and go literally as far as you want, and I wouldn't be able to call you crazy, to be honest.
I think that the reason that it didn't make our top 10 is because it is almost so ambiguous. It's so open-ended, and you really have no idea what this move would have brought to the program. But what if Luka Doncic chose the Arizona Wildcats as his school to commit to from Europe if he was to play college basketball in the States? We have some video here. They asked Luka Doncic about what school he would potentially go to, and they got other NBA stars, other Olympians, I believe, in on the process as well.
Of going to college in America, what college do you think you would have played basketball at?
Arizona. They say it's good there. I can see him in Southern California, Texas A&M, or the University of Florida.
I feel like I can see him at Gonzaga.
I can't see him at Gonzaga. I can see why you think that, but I just can't.
He got Duke written all over him. That's like one of Coach K's favorite players. I remember when he was recruiting me, it was during the bubble. He would call me and he'd be like, Are you watching Luka Doncic right now? Like, you got to go watch Luka. Like, that's what you got to be like.
He played in the Western Conference, so I'm going to say he would have went to, like, Arizona.
As you can see, Celtics MVP candidate, finals MVP snub, Jason Tatum. He knows ball, and he knows that, hey, Celtics Heat thing aside, Jason Tatum knows this is a kid from St. Louis. He's a kid that played at Duke and then now plays and is one of the all-time best for a franchise in the Upper East Coast. And point is, he knows that if you play out West and you're a premier talent, you're going to Arizona. That wasn't like Jason Tatum just pulling a school out of nowhere. That was all of the influence that Arizona has as a brand shown to you right there.
All I know is he didn't say UCLA.
1,000%. Didn't say USC like Zion did. Didn't end up at Texas A&M like Zion did.
You went USC because in Texas A&M because they pay the most money.
Yep.
Not because they have good basketball programs. What the hell are we talking about?
I like to think, now that you said that Zion was actually thinking, like, who offered me the most money that wasn't Duke?
Yeah.
And he's just going through his Rolodex. And then when the guy says Gonzaga, which is a totally natural pick, you know what I mean? Tommy Lloyd, Mr. International, makes sense that he would bring a guy like Luka Doncic to Gonzaga. Zion's like, thinking like, they didn't want to pay me nothing. He ain't going to Gonzaga. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think Jason Tatum was thinking about it from like, if you are actually one of the best talents in the world and you want to play out west, you go to Arizona. I think Zion is just thinking about money bags. You know what I mean?
I love Luka's response of, they say it's good there.
What? They say what's good there, Luka? What do you mean by that?
My brother. What do you mean by this? Because I think we all know what he means by this, but I believe the year prior, Lauri Markkanen was Arizona's star player. So you did have probably the best European prospect come to the University of Arizona 1 year before. And then, of course, notoriously, DeAndre Ayton was the #1 pick in the same draft as Luka Doncic. You would have had DeAndre Ayton and Luka Doncic playing on the same college basketball team. And Kevin, there really is no telling as to how far that team could go in the tournament.
No, you and I were debating it earlier this morning when we were talking about this exact topic and where to rank it. I was like, I think this gives Arizona a national title. I mean, I think that this results in that.
I would argue that you're probably correct. The reason that I couldn't go this far, and sorry to cut you off, but I just have to give my side of it, is when you lose by 20 points to Buffalo, I can't sit there and be like, that team is going to do anything. I made the comparison, if you put Jesus Christ on the team, I think they lose that game to Buffalo. So that's where I'm sitting here, and I'm like, a team that gets blown out by Buffalo in the first round, like how far could they go? That being said, Luka Doncic is top 3 player in the NBA, was a star the second he joined the league, was clearly ready for the National Basketball Association. I don't think there's any doubts that he would have been ready for playing NCAA basketball back in that time.
We're talking about the youngest MVP of his league overseas. We're talking about a guy that was dominating former NBA pros, current in their prime European pros, dominating them, making them look silly. You know what I mean? And I think coming over to college where he's going to be playing in that conference at the time, not the best competition across the board, right? Like you maybe would in the modern Big 12. I think Luka Doncic would have absolutely dominated. And also, furthermore, I think it results in Luka Doncic ending up back in Phoenix on the Suns, like he should have the first time around. And I think that this changes literally everything, not just for you and me here, but also for our Suns guys over there on the PHNX Suns show. Luka to Arizona changes everything. Mm-hmm. And I think it's genuinely huge. The only reason it didn't make our top 10, like you alluded to, was that we're kind of working in complete fantasy land here. We're going 100%. Off of a guy that pretty much had no intention of coming to the U.S. for college basketball. Yeah. To my knowledge.
How truly close was he to actually wanting to play college basketball? Probably, it might have been a -% chance from the jump.
But now looking back on it, if he were to have gone to college, which college would he have gone to? And he said Arizona. But in the moment, we have no way of even knowing if that's the true case, right? Like he has the benefit of hindsight. Arizona's done all this stuff since DeAndre Ayton in his time. Like, it feels like there's no way of knowing that this was ever even a possibility in the universe until Luka could have literally said any school. And I think this sparks that whole thing all over again for that school. Like, I think that's why it didn't make the top 10, and that's why it's in our honorable mentions. Mm-hmm. I think we should get to these last 2 honorable mentions before we get to the rest of our list.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and skip one and keep that last one for last, because I'm going to go to, what if Nick Foles went to Arizona State University? We, of course, all love Nick Foles. Nick Foles represents this school. He reps Arizona almost as hard as any single professional athlete that we have out there. He's always wearing Arizona hats. He's always talking about the U of A. He's always visiting Tucson. But Nick Foles, of course, did commit to ASU before he committed to Arizona. And that's because he had committed to play for Dirk Cutter, who was the then head coach at ASU. And then he decommitted when Dirk Cutter was fired in favor of Dennis Erickson and joined the Arizona Wildcats instead. So what does that bring to the table? Well, in 2007, Arizona State was really, really good, man. They had Rudy Carpenter at quarterback, who was, a really solid quarterback for them for 4 seasons. He played all 4 seasons. But let's be honest for a second. Nick Foles is a better quarterback than Rudy Carpenter was. That team went 10-3. That team finished 16th in the AP poll, went 7-2 in conference. Does Nick Foles step on campus at ASU and take them to another level? Does he get them to a Rose Bowl, win 2 more games for them? I think there's really no telling. And on the opposite side of things, Nick Foles, has represented this football program as one of the most highly regarded players that we have, one of the guys that we actually can hang our hat on and be proud of as Arizona football fans. Ultimately makes the right decision and joins the Wildcats in Tucson rather than going to ASU. But man, that would just be disgusting if Nick Foles was a Sun Devil.
It would be horrific. Like, to think about this, Damon, walk with me here. The Super Bowl happens, and Nick Foles, everything that he did in that Super Bowl goes down, and you and I don't even get to be like proud of it.
Nah.
And in fact, you and I are disgusted by it.
Yeah.
Because you know what that means? It continues that dumbass trend of all these ASU fans, because Nick Foles never would have won nothing with them. I think that they would have been like, it's the pinnacle of the sport, and ASU's on top. And it's like, come on, son. So I'm just happy that he did go to Arizona, so that never happened.
Are you ready for Cam Scadaboo, special teams captain, 4th-string running back on a Super Bowl team, and then them to treat it as if they won the Peach Bowl because Cam Scadaboo won a Super Bowl? So that means
he got his ring, boys.
Yeah. Go back, change the record books. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It just, honestly, that sounds like my personal hell.
Exactly.
In that Super Bowl, I have to either root for ASU legend Nick Foles to win MVP. Or Tom Brady, most disgusting, gross cheater on planet Earth, to win another Super Bowl. It would have been absolutely brutal in either circumstance, and thank God that didn't have to happen. This last one I think is really interesting, Kevin, and I'll actually parlay it into another one. The only reason I think, honestly, we didn't put it on here because it is so interesting and the butterfly effect is so massive. But Arizona used to be a green and silver school, sage and silver technically, and that was the school's colors because of the engineering supposedly within the city of Tucson and in southern Arizona in particular. When it came to mining, those were 2 colors that were mostly associated with practices of mining. Obviously silver is a thing that you would mine for, and thus Arizona's colors were silver and sage supposedly. And now this is where we didn't want to put it on our main list. Supposedly, there was a couple of reasons why they went to red and blue. Number one, apparently the engineering and mining culture it had been decades. It was not as prominent at the school anymore, and the student body thought it might have been time to make a change. There also are more unsubstantiated rumors. I couldn't find anything concrete on this that stated that the Arizona Wildcats athletic department was given a discount on red and blue colored jerseys. And if they bought those red and blue jerseys, they would pay less than they would if they had to make all brand new silver and sage jerseys. Therefore, the University of Arizona, capitalizing on the business savviness that we all know that they have, decided to go with red and blue, and the rest is history.
Because if there's one thing that we know U of A is good at, it's balancing a budget. And
Damn
I think,
right, brother.
It is crazy to think about, again, it didn't make our list, and I think you outlined a good reasons as to why. But I think another reason as to why is what does this truly change? About the U of A? It changes the colors that we wear. You know what I mean? And it changes the colors, maybe the palette outlining of our closet. But ultimately, it doesn't really, in my opinion, unless you think that the colors manifest some sort of success. I don't think that the colors would necessarily change, trickle down. And again, butterfly effect, you see it in the thumbnail. We don't know what the changes. Maybe Arizona's the greatest athletics program we've ever seen if they were sage and silver. Maybe they're the worst if they were sage and silver. But I do think it's fun to be what if the red, white, and blue that we all rep so hard was actually sage and silver? And we were out here looking like Steven repping Michigan State. And that's crazy.
There's a pop culture type of element to U of A, especially in the 90s, late 80s, where people were like, man, these jerseys are sick. There's the picture of Queen Latifah wearing a U of A jersey and whatnot. Does that change because of this? Does Arizona not become as nationally prominent because people don't subconsciously rock with the uniforms and colors as much? I mean, it's totally open-ended, but it really is interesting. What if we were all rocking sage and silver this whole time? And then on top of that, in a similar kind of environment, our band director flying into Tucson, seeing bear down on the top of our gym caused him to write the Bear Down song. So you could go two ways with this. What if John Button Salmon never said bear down? And you could get way more graphic with that if you wanted to, but I'm going to keep that for you guys at home to come up with in your own head. I've been saying it off air a lot. Or what if that statement bear down was uttered, but it wasn't painted on top of our practice gym where, you know, it popped into our band director's head and he immediately sat down and wrote Bear Down Arizona from that jump, right? And, you know, what if Bear Down Arizona wasn't our fight song? I think Fight Wildcats Fight was still a thing. So we would still have that, but it did change a lot of our identity, personal identity, those two things as a program. Was there any other what ifs you wanted to run off real quick, Kevin?
I mean,
honorable mentions.
We could do honorable mentions all day because it would just be us doing the rest of the what ifs.
What if Khalil Tate started earlier? What if Roy Halladay was a Wildcat? What if Brandon Jennings or Terrence Ferguson? Or Steven Jackson is another one that I see you
I didn't even include that one.
What if those three guys weren't ineligible and did end up coming to the University of Arizona? What does that breed? I mean, there's a lot of what ifs. And then, of course, what if Conrad Martinez doesn't hit that three-pointer in the first half versus Arizona State last year?
I mean, Damon and I, chat, you have Damon to credit for all this. I wanted to put that at number one. What if Conrad Martinez never came in before the
I had to fight Kevin
before the end of the first half in a regular season conference game against ASU and hit a corner three that, I mean, I don't want to say too much, but I think that saved the pod.
It might have saved the pod.
I think you and I, like, it brought us so much closer. Our celebration of that 3-point shot, it meant everything in the moment.
It well and truly did, Kevin.
And we wouldn't be hitting an ad break on any show possible at all if it wasn't for Conrad Martinez. So this upcoming break, you have to thank Conrad Martinez for that. We're going to be right back with more what ifs here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Thank you, Conrad. And if you want to be as stylish as Conrad Martinez is shooting on the court, you got to rock some branded bills, because branded bills is the most comfortable, stylish, affordable, whatever you want to say, headwear in the game. Branded bills is that. They're the best in the game at headwear. And if you want to rep your school, if you want to elevate your brand, Branded Bills is the best way to do that. Head down to the Arizona campus store. They have an exclusive Branded Bills, site there.
It's pristine.
It's beautiful. There's nice white lighting. It's very elegant. They have, Wilbur stuff. They have softball stuff. They have baseball stuff. Baseball, hat-related baseball stuff is what I'm trying to say. But if you don't like baseball hats, you like truckers, you like fitteds, you like t-shirts, you like beanies, I think they got all types of stuff at Branded Bills. So check out Branded Bills. Head to brandedbills.com and use code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order of the most stylish, of the most comfortable, of the most beautiful. Did I say comfy? Comfy headwear in the entire game. Branded Bills, BBPHNX for 15% off.
Another company that is the absolute best in their class and their field is Pure Edibles. Guys, let me tell you about Pure Edibles. Whether, you want like a good tasting gummy, right? And not one that goes and tastes exactly like the product that you're using the gummy for, right? Yeah. You want that gummy to taste really, really good. And that's where the kicks come in. They're like their version of Starburst. They also have the chews in the caramel or the chocolate form, of course. That are so good as well. And they have the hard candies if you're a little bit more of an older soul, right? That's what Pure Edibles is all about, giving you options. You can find Pure Edibles products in over 130 dispensaries in this great state of Arizona. They are, of course, an Arizona company. They were founded in Flagstaff. Now they make their product here in Phoenix. And guys, we love supporting local. We love supporting Pure Edibles. Unique cannabinoids with CBN, CBG, CBD, and marijuana-derived THC. Pure gummies are designed to be ripped or bit in half, making them easily shareable and easy to dial in your specific dose. I know Kevin's all in on it. I know Derek Montilla is. I know I am. Pure Edibles, the best product you will find out there. Go find yourself some Pure Edibles products at the over 130 dispensaries across the great state of Arizona.
You brought up a good point on PHNX D-backs in relation to that same ad read earlier when you did it, about how if you're not at a dispensary where they, dispense,
go.
If your dispensary doesn't dispense kicks or any Pure Edibles products, you got 130 other options. I say you have 130 better options than where you're currently at. So I'll wrap that up with that, and we will move into our bottom 5 on our top 10 list of the greatest what ifs in UofA history. Should we show them the whole bottom 5 and go break it down, or should we should we start with 10?
Let's start with 10, keep it suspenseful, and then show them our 5 that we have at the end of it. Starting off with number 10 here. What if Jayden de Laura never gets injured versus Stanford? Now, this is one that you could dive pretty deep in, Kevin. What does the butterfly effect of Jayden de Laura not getting hurt mean? Well, it means that Jedd Fisch sticks with JDL over Noah Fifita, who Noah Fifita ultimately in the long run was the starting quarterback at the end of the season. It means that the Alamo Bowl victory versus Oklahoma, that goes up in the air. Do you even win a bowl game? Do you even make a bowl game with Jayden de Laura as quarterback? I would say probably. You probably win 6 games, 7 games with JDL, but you definitely don't win 9-3 like Noah Fifita did. You definitely don't beat Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl. I think Jayden de Laura, he was a decent quarterback for this team, but he wasn't the guy to push this team over the top, right? And that's where bringing in Noah Fifita and seeing that X factor kind of, that star player, come into his own out there on the field was truly special. And then I think the biggest kicker out of all of this, Kevin, and this is where you can really get deep on this what if, does it keep Jedd Fisch in Tucson?
Yes, it does. I think it does. I think with our 10th what if on our list, this is, and I think it actually shows the impact that the other 9 have, because this is truly a wide branching what if. Right. This is like, if Jayden de Laura does not get injured, I think most Arizona fans stand validly reasoning that Jedd Fisch would have stuck with JDL as the starter over Noah Fifita, and we would maybe never have seen Noah Fifita.
He wanted to.
Exactly.
He tried his darndest to stick with Jayden de Laura over Noah Fifita. I know that a lot of UofA media members that were out there at practices throughout that offseason were telling people Noah Fifita is the quarterback of the future of this team. He should be the starter for right now because people thought Noah Fifita is much better than Jayden de Laura. And it was almost a kind of felt like a Fisch promise, if you will. Like he told Jayden de Laura, hey, if you transfer to Arizona from Washington State, you will be the starter until you no longer have eligibility here. And it just kind of got to the point where Fisch's hand was forced because Noah Fifita was just playing that damn good. Arizona loses that game to Stanford if JDL stays in that game. And you could almost make the argument, do they make a bowl game if they lose that game to Stanford? Because Stanford was one of the worst teams on their schedule. It really is an interesting butterfly effect. And yeah, it probably gets the Wildcats at 5-7, 6-6, 7-5. Jedd Fisch is not a candidate at Washington if that's the record after the 2024 season, because that's just not good enough for a football program like Washington to go after a coach, right? Like they want someone that has a higher perceived ceiling than that. And then what does that mean for this past season? In 2024?
Would this have been the Alamo
Would
season?
This have been the season that we wanted, or that we saw the year before, essentially, but without the hiccup of having JDL throw 4 interceptions against Mississippi State in the non-conference? Does Noah Fifita go out there and lead this team to a playoff caliber season in the first year of the 12-team playoff? And do we steal that bid from ASU, from our biggest rivals? I think that the butterfly effect of this is so massive, and it's crazy that this is number 10, Kevin, because it really, as you mentioned, does go to show how important and wild these other 9 what-ifs on our list are.
No, 1,000%. And if you disagree with us having this at 10, please let us know. This is one of those lists where we're having fun with it, and it's not like this is the factual top 10 list. Yeah. This is our top 10 list of the greatest what-ifs. Like Damon said at the start of the show, please let us know where you would put this on your personal top 10, because I think this is one of those where it's like, I think it has the highest ceiling, and we found the floor, it's 10. But I think it has the highest ceiling of any of the non-top 3 ones on this list, in my opinion. Because of all the different branches and different directions in which you could take this. What the hell does Brent Brennan do? Is he still at San Jose State? Does he get a different job after the year that he had, leading them to success? What does Washington do? But what does Alabama do? Does Washington go all in on keeping Kalen DeBoer, and then now all of a sudden Alabama is just hustling, trying to get a coach? This is a crazy what if, and it's like you said, it's wild that we have it at number 10. Should we move to number 9 though?
Let's
and
go
show
ahead
the
and do
people what we got above it.
It's a very, very similar vein here at number 9. Larry Smith, what if he does not go to the University of Southern California? Larry Smith was Arizona's coach From 1980 to 1986, he culminated a 48, 28, and 3 record over that time period, which we all know at Arizona is an absolutely phenomenal record. And probably, to be honest with you, as much as Dick Tomei is the greatest coach in Arizona football history, Larry Smith was probably the most consistent, sustainable coach in Arizona history. You look at his records that he had here. After it took him a minute to kind of get this program into a good place, going 5-6, 6-5, 6-4-1 in his first 3 seasons. He then went 7-3-1, 7-4, 8-3-1, and 9-3 in his next 4. He was really on a good stretch of solid records that were very respectable nationwide. He goes on to take the job at what is perhaps the most prestigious football program in the country at that time. I think it's a toss-up between Notre Dame and USC back in the year 1986, 1987. And Larry Smith goes on to coach at USC for 6 years, went 44, 25, and 3. Wasn't the greatest USC coach of all time. He made 3 Rose Bowls while he was there, 3 straight right after he left Arizona, which is a little bit unfortunate and feels bad as Arizona fans. But it keeps Dick Tomei from coming to Arizona, of course, which thus makes Brent Brennan probably, gets rid of Brent Brennan's ties to Arizona, because we all know Brent Brennan was a grad assistant at Arizona under Dick Tomei. We all know Brad Brennan went to Arizona, went and played under Dick Tomei. So Brent Brennan probably is never the coach here at Arizona, because one of his big selling points was he's a Dick Tomei guy. And then, of course, the 2 best program seasons in program history in the 90s, 93 and 98. Do those happen under Larry Smith? Do we have better seasons than those seasons under Larry Smith? Because like I said, and like I portrayed, it seemed like he was building something incredibly sustainable in Tucson. And Larry Smith goes on to say later in his life that as he moved back to Tucson to spend his retirement days, Larry Tucson goes on to say that he wishes he never left, that he regrets that decision to go to USC for the rest of his life. Is Arizona almost a powerhouse program of sorts if Larry Smith stays? I think that you could go a lot of different directions with this what if.
I mean, look, this is because this is well before my time, respectfully to those in the chat that this was not before your time. We just keep it a spade. This is before my time. And I think, like, when I was looking back on this what if and I was trying to get some branches as to where this would go, I asked you, I was like, dude, does Arizona become a powerhouse in the Southwest if Larry Smith stays? And you were kind of like, honestly, I don't know. Like, I think they might have. And I think, like, the sustainability thing is what I identified. The same thing that you identified and you brought up to the attention of the stream here is that, like, I think that this was the consistency that Arizona needed and still needs to this damn day in 2025. And I think, like, this is, I don't know how to compare it to something, but it hurts to hear Larry Smith at the end of his career and the end of his life be like, I really wish I never left Tucson. And we're like, yeah, us too, Larry. And I think, like, you misspoke and you called him Larry Tucson there at the end of your thing. But I think it was a Freudian slip, because maybe he could have become damn Larry Tucson if he stayed in Tucson for longer than he did.
Fire nickname.
Because I think if he stays and I'm not saying that Arizona fans aren't a little bit delusional. We all, any fan, it's fanatic. We know people like to say that, and it's true. We all have our delusions about our teams. I don't think it's delusional to say that even if he never like had the super high highs that you could project and you can extrapolate out that he could have reached, I think the consistency would have made him a legend in the city of Tucson.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying the bar is low, but in terms of consistency, the bar is the floor.
For sure.
And I think that if he could have brought consistency to the program, he could have been a program legend as opposed to being on our list of what ifs.
Absolutely, because you look here at Dick Tomei's career here at Arizona. He coached at this program for 14 seasons, and he had a mid-tier, like a 500 or worse record in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those 14 seasons. So almost a third of those seasons, Arizona was either below average or average at best. And I think that Larry Smith was a coach that was building something a little bit more sustainable than that. Not to discredit Dick Tomei, he's the greatest coach that we've had in program history. There's no question about it. But I do think that there's something to be said of maybe Larry Smith could have brought this program to heights that we hadn't seen before and have not really seen since, which means consistently being a winner. But moving on here to number 8, this one's pretty simple, Kevin, and I feel like we don't have to talk about this one for a super long time because it's less open-ended.
It's black and white, closed shut.
What if
This
Aari
one.
McDonald's shot goes in at the buzzer when Arizona played Stanford in the, I believe, 2021 Women's Basketball National Championship?
I mean,
pretty simple. The Arizona
Yeah.
Wildcats win the national championship.
it is that simple. And you said this is black and white, and this is as clear cut as it gets. And I said it's closed shut. And I think like this is the direct line of A to B, right? If Aari McDonald's shot goes in, Arizona wins that national championship. They get their first national women's basketball championship in program history. Adia Barnes, who then actually already became one of the highest paid coaches in the country after this, probably maybe becomes like right in that tier below the GOATs, that's still running the sport in terms of pay, in terms of actual salary. I think because then my point is, you see the kind of money Adia demanded after losing the national championship. Imagine the money she would have demanded after winning the national championship. And I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that to dig at Adia, but I'm saying that maybe the resources that she begged and pleaded for on her way out would not have been a problem if she actually had gotten a ring. And this is not Aari's fault, not Adia's fault that this shot did not go in, and that we're not talking about a national championship for women's basketball in 2021. But I think what I'm alluding to is that if that shot goes in, Aari McDonald and Adia Barnes by proxy would ring in a new era of Arizona women's basketball. And when I say that, I don't mean like, yes, the obvious, that they would usher in a positive era of winning and you have the national championship to hang your hat on. I'm talking about the trickle down effect of success. The recruits, the assistant coaches, the funding, the fan base, the national acclaim, the overall health that we talk about with basketball and football when they succeed, trickling down to other programs. I think this only helps to uplift some of the programs that maybe I'll say have smaller fan bases compared to football, compared to men's basketball. I think this ushers in a totally new era of support for women's sports on a campus that already loves softball. And I think that, this is one of the bigger what ifs for obvious reasons. You get a national championship, a whole new era on the team, and your coach that a lot of people beloved at this point in time, during the national championship run. Who knows how the Adia Barnes era goes if this shot goes in, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that at the very least, I hear what you're saying. I do think Adia probably is in those contract negotiations being like, saying right here what we're saying. What if that shot went in? Would you pay me more money? And she probably was sitting there being like, you're not deciding whether or not to pay me more millions of dollars on one singular shot. But it probably at least keeps Adia here for the long term. I mean, I doubt that the toxicity and kind of the bad vibes around the programs happen in the same way if Arizona ultimately does get that done. I mean, I think that in a way it almost did usher in, or we thought it was going to usher in a new era of Arizona women's basketball. But it kind of almost trickled down eventually because you just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse after every year. So, Arizona would be national champions. Aari McDonald would be even more of a legend than she already is. And this women's basketball program would probably be firing on all cylinders right now. Getting into number 7, another shot here. What if Jamelle Horne or Derek Williams, because he took the first one before the offensive rebound, what if Jamelle Horne or Derek Williams' shot goes in versus UConn when playing Kemba Walker's eventual national champions? Arizona would have made its first Final Four since the 2001 season, which of course has eluded us ever since, and we are very aware of that as Arizona fans. The eventual champions in UConn would have been eliminated, thus eliminating the top competition for winning said trophy. Not to mention, Kevin, Butler was the other team in that national championship game.
Shout out to Brad Stevens.
Shout out Brad Stevens, but at the same time, give me Derek Williams versus Butler, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God, would he have put up 50 points in that national championship game? I think you can make the argument Arizona is national champions very easily if that shot goes in. And Sean Miller would have reached his first Final Four in year 2 at Arizona. What does that mean for his tenure at Arizona? Does that mean Sean Miller is legend status with that of Lute Olson being the only 2 coaches that made it? I think Sean Miller is still kind of a legend at Arizona. But that would have put him in a different echelon. That probably would have jump-started his Arizona career, and I doubt we would have felt that lid on the basket, that proverbial lid on the basket in 2014 and 2015 when losing to Wisconsin of, hey, we still need to reach that threshold of making our first Final Four in such a long time. There's so much less pressure on this team. There's so much less pressure on Sean Miller. I really do think that this could have changed the trajectory of this basketball program.
I mean, I think you laid it all out right there. Like I don't want to, just say, hey, Damon's right. And let's move on. But like, you are right. I think this literally changes the trajectory of the entire basketball program. Sean Miller, I think that's the most, I know it sounds crazy to say that's the most important part of all of this, but I think if Sean Miller, kind of similar to what we were talking about with Adia Barnes, if you get that early success, it buys you so much damn time.
Yeah.
And it gives you a lot of grace. And now Adia Barnes didn't really have the same context to which she needed that grace that she got herself. I think there was some toxicity with the fans, back and forth there as well, that I think, shortened that grace that she got from that national championship run. But if Sean Miller was able to reach the Final Four in just year 2, I think that even with the article and lack of apology and lack of recension, is that a word? Of the article, I think he might have even survived that at Arizona. Who knows what could have happened?
I think
if Jamelle Horne shot
the
goes
national media treats him differently if
what
we win a national championship. I think that they treat him like Coach K or like Calipari, where they're just like, oh no, sweet angel, and instead of being like, you effing donkey, Sean Miller. It's the Gordon Ramsay verbal meme. There's your verbal meme for the podcast. But I think that, that's pretty self-explanatory. Like this program probably is in a much different position. Does Tommy Lloyd ever come to Arizona? Is Sean Miller still the coach? I mean, everything could have changed based off of that one simple shot. We're going to round it out here with our final bottom 5 what if here in Arizona athletics history. And this one's a big one, folks. What if Mike Candrea never stopped coaching baseball? Mike Candrea was an assistant coach at the at Arizona Central College back in the day. He was a baseball coach. He actually went to Arizona State University, if you guys were unaware of that. I mean, he was a baseball assistant until 1980 at Central Arizona College, until he was broached with the opportunity to be the head softball coach of Central Arizona College in 1981. He coached them for a few seasons, and then, of course, the Arizona Wildcats came calling. And when Arizona comes calling, Kevin, that knock, it sounds different.
Even if Luka Doncic is at a hookah bar somewhere in Slovenia, if Tommy Lloyd called, he's picking up now.
That Arizona knock, it just means something different. But Mike Candrea, what if he never stopped coaching baseball? Well, Arizona softball would not have become the pillar of this athletic department as we have all come to know it, meaning 8 of the 19 national championships that we have in our team sports might not be in existence. I mean, I don't want to say for a fact that they wouldn't be, but I think it's 99.9999999% likely that it wouldn't be. And it also begs the question of, would Mike Candrea have been an ASU guy if Arizona never approached him necessarily? He was a grad of the school. He had a master's degree from the school. Would he have gone and coached their softball program? I think there's a lot of what ifs surrounding Mike Candrea in Tucson.
Yeah, and I'll keep this one short as well, because I think it's pretty self-explanatory. If one of the greatest coaches in your athletics history at your university never came to your university, I'm sure stuff is going to look a lot different around the city of Tucson without Mike Candrea. But not just Tucson, you alluded to it. He's an influence on a national women's sports level, right? I think that, like, you and I were talking about this pre-show, how we wanted to word the second bullet point, how we wanted to discuss this. But I think, like, it would have happened. The modernization of softball, the going from shorts to pants, it would have happened. But how soon? You know what I mean? Like, this is one of those things where the selfie stick was always going to get invented, but who got there first? And Mike Candrea got there first with putting these innovations into the sport of softball. And I think it's an undeniable fact to say, if we went through this what if, that probably takes longer to happen. And who knows how long it takes the AUSL and Devon Nets to have a pro team to play. Like, I think this is a huge what if.
The Arizona-UCLA rivalry absolutely sparked softball's popularity in this country. There's no question about it. And yeah, I think that, the question of, wearing softball pants, they were wearing shorts out there because it was considered a girls' game, right? And Mike Candrea was a baseball coach. He was used to his players wearing pants. He started coaching softball, and he said, we're not doing this nonsense. We're ball players.
Yeah.
And I think that as simple as it may sound, it really was there's a big trickle-down effect in terms of women's athletics in general, of people that pioneered, treating women's athletics as if they were men's athletics, like they should be. And Mike Candrea was a big part of that. Another kind of off the cuff one that is a bullet point below it, but just for softball standard, that I want to mention is, what if Tanya Harding from UCLA was never allowed to play college softball?
Yeah.
In 1995, she was the MVP of the Women's College World Series. UCLA defeated Arizona in the national championship. And after they did so, Harding returned to Australia without taking any final exams or earning a singular college credit. In 1997, the NCAA stripped UCLA of its 1995 national championship. We get stuck with our runner-up. They get to claim that they still won that national championship with an ineligible player, having brought in a foreign pitcher who was the best pitcher maybe in the world at that time. And of course, three softball players were granted soccer scholarships, putting them over the 3 scholarship limit for softball. And they were not identified, but one of them was Harding. Arizona was not declared the national champion. Because there was no way of determining whether Arizona would have won if that wasn't the case. Although we all know that there was 2 powerhouses back then, and absolutely Arizona would have won. So it cost us a national championship in the process. And how funny is it you think about back in those days, Kevin, that they simply would just be like, oh, we'll just give them the soccer scholarships.
It's crazy, isn't it?
And they thought that no one would be able to figure that out. Whereas like today, could you imagine the watchdog society of social media doing something like people would find it in a half second. They'd be like, what are we doing, guys? It's right in front of our faces.
Whatever intern is doing the back end of like the, noting what players on what scholarship and whatever, they're leaking it immediately to whoever. They're yo, Damon, did you hear that they got Umar Ballo on like a language scholarship? You know what I'm saying? This is crazy.
It's crazy to think about. In 1995, people thought that they could get away with stuff like that.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm with you. It's crazy.
Just like Jordan's 1988 depoy. I don't know if you've seen any of that, Kevin, but like the the home scorekeeper for the Chicago Bulls gave something like Michael Jordan like 300% of the defensive block and steal statistics at home games in Chicago, rather than when he played away games and there were different scorekeepers taking those stats. Basically, if Scottie Pippen deflected a pass, Michael Jordan ended up with it. Steal for Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan standing near a bucket when Horace Grant blocks a shot. Block shot for Michael Jordan. And it led to him winning a depoy. Now we get the evidence of that in today's day and age. And we're just like, how did you think you could get away with something like that? Because you just could. But that is a different tangent. We got our top 5 biggest what-ifs in Arizona Wildcats sports history to get into. And we'll do that right after the last break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast.
All right, I'll get it out the way right now. I'm moving, guys. And I'm moving.
Are you serious?
I'm moving. And I think the moving process is a process that you got to be financially ready for. And Monarch Money is your friend that makes sure you're ready for all the financial mishaps or just unplanned things that might be coming your way. Because managing your money, they don't teach it in the schools the way they need to. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting on my soapbox here. You know what I mean? But while I'm on my soapbox, I want to tell you about Monarch Money because it is the Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025. And if you need to budget yourself, Monarch Money is the best way to track your comings, your goings, the incomes, the expenses, all of that. If you have a gajillion streaming services and at this point you're just like, I don't know when they're charging me, I don't know when they're taking stuff out. Monarch Money, if you get a new streaming service, they will detect recurring payments and be like, hey, is this a subscription that you know about? And you'll be like, yes, no, and you can deal with it from there. Monarch Money is your financial friend. So get full control over your finances with Monarch Money. Use code PHNX at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year of money saving tools. We're saving you money on saving money. That's 50% off of your first year at monarchmoney.com using code PHNX.
Kevin, let me ask you a question.
Shoot.
Where are you going to be watching UFC 318 this weekend?
Oh, man. You know the answer to this, and there's only one correct answer, and it is our friends over at Gila River. Now, if you're asking me which Gila River location, that's a different question because I'm out by Beekiva now, but I could also hit Wild Horse Pass. I'm sure you're going to tell me about some other spots I could hit, but those are my 2 options. It's Gila River for sure, but where? Which Gila River am I going to, Damon?
I mean, it's certainly up in the air for you, Kevin. There's so many great options to choose from. Of course, we have 4 locations, Gila River locations here in the Valley, but I'll tell you about Wild Horse Pass. They got the BetMGM Sportsbook there. It is the biggest sportsbook in the state of Arizona. It's the perfect place to watch pay-per-views. If you're thinking about somewhere to watch UFC 318 this weekend, head on over to the BetMGM Sportsbook at Wild Horse Pass. It's unbelievable up there. And they, of course, are, any type of sporting event they got going on up there. I'm just using UFC as an example because we, of course, are an MMA podcast, the two of us here on the AZ Wildcats podcast.
Yeah.
But you can bet, watch, and win at the BetMGM Sportsbook, whether it's, any sport, MLB, All-Star Game, what you name it, man. Gather the friends and catch all the action up there at the BetMGM Sportsbook. Of course, they have the live table games and slots. They have the cabanas, the pool area, the concert venue, you name it, man. It's just like having Vegas in your backyard. Take a staycation this summer out there at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Like we said, they got 4 locations. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playathgila.com for more details. I'm going to see details on every single one now.
Yeah, and I was also going to say, part of the best... one of the best parts of going to a sports book in person is if you don't have a true lean for a bet until you get there. You know what I mean? And UFC 318 is one of those. I told you I bet on Poirier already, but if you, like many others, are split on the main event, head to BetMGM Sportsbook and decide when you get there. You know what I mean? It's going to clear your mind. Being at Gila will clear your mind right up. And if, we're trying to set the record straight while we're at it, why don't we just update people on what our bottom 5 looks like for our what-ifs here? The top 10 what-ifs in Arizona athletics history. This is our bottom 5. Number 6, Candrea of Mike, never coaches softball. Horne of Jamelle, his shot. And Williams of Derek, their shots don't fall versus UConn. Aari McDonald's shot does not fall versus Stanford in the national championship. Larry Smith not going to USC. And Jaden DeLora staying healthy. And maybe Jedd Fisch staying in Arizona as a result. Those are our 6 through 10 on our top 10 of the greatest what-ifs in UofA history.
Why don't we hit up our 5th one here and get into it, Kevin, as we reach into our top 5. Ooh. What if Rob Gronkowski does not sit out the 2009 season due to injury? We all know Rob Gronkowski is the greatest tight end in the history of football. We all know how strong that Brady to Gronk connection was in the NFL and what that did for, that Patriots, second leg dynasty that they had under Bill Belichick and with Tom Brady under center. But what does it do for the Arizona Wildcats if Gronk had played that 2009 season? The butterfly effect is really off the charts. Foles to Gronk duo takes over college football, right? I mean, Nick Foles became the quarterback that year. Gronk was of course, sitting out that season, so they didn't overlap whatsoever. But Nick Foles is the greatest quarterback in program history. Gronk is the greatest probably player in program history, top to bottom. That duo would have fed families, Kevin. It would have been special to watch. It probably wins Arizona that double overtime game versus Oregon on College Game Day in 2009 that we all remember, where Alex Zendejas just missed kick after absolute kick, kicked us all in the nuts in the process. But yeah, that was a brutal game. Does Arizona win that game? Does Arizona win their another very, very close game that they had in that 2009 football season against I believe California here? They lost 16-24. I don't think they lose that game. I don't think that they lose the Washington game on the road, 33-36. I think that Arizona probably makes a Rose Bowl here if Rob Gronkowski plays this season, because he really is that generational of a player, right? Where he could change the outcome of games. He had 10 touchdowns the season before as a sophomore. And then Gronk likely becomes a first-round pick if he is a healthy player that season because he is so special. And if he's a first-round pick, he never goes in the second round to the New England Patriots. What does that change with the NFL? Would have been crazy.
And real quick, while we're walking down memory lane with Gronkowski here, I want to bring to everybody's attention that to the left of the number 5 in that photo, that's a foot. That's a foot in that photo.
Of course it is.
A foot is not supposed to be near the elbow of the ball carrier, but when you're defending Robert Gronkowski, a.k.a. Gronk,
all over the place.
You get thrown, shucked anywhere on the field, and I think that was a great way to remember Gronk right there with that photo.
I love it, Kevin.
Yeah, like you said, this is one of the greatest what-ifs, not just in Arizona sports history, but also in NFL history when you really map it out and extrapolate it. That's my word of the day, extrapolate. I think, do I start here? Does Tom Brady become the GOAT? Does Tom Brady become the GOAT?
That honestly, I think no.
If Gronkowski doesn't.
I genuinely think no.
It's crazy to think, right? And I think, getting back to more of a micro look at things, this definitely changes Arizona sports history for sure. And I think that Gronk being already a program favorite, already a university favorite, a state favorite, if I may, nation's darling, if I should. But I think like that happens, but I think on a whole nother level in Tucson, because you have that year, his last year on the team, and he's going for it all. And if he's able to stay healthy, get that first round pick, maybe make a Rose Bowl. We've been talking about the trickle down effects for the program as a whole. I think like when we're talking about brand recognition, a lot of recruits going to be watching that Rose Bowl back in the day. You know what I mean? Watching Gronk absolutely pile drive guys into the end zone. So you never know what the outreaching effects of this could have been. But you know for damn sure it likely results in a Rose Bowl. And you know for damn sure the greatest football player of all time might not have 7 rings to his name without Rob Gronkowski missing the 2009 season and never linking up with Nick Foles. We don't get any really truly cool Super Bowl content of like, remember when you and I were in the Rose Bowl, you and me, Nick Foles? Remember that? Like we don't get that because the Super Bowl probably never happens in the same way because Brady never has. It's a whole thing with this number 5 entry on our list, and I am this was a fun walk down memory lane of the Gronkowski era.
Yeah, it's almost a weird what if where it's like, what if happened? It's probably better for us.
Yes,
it's probably worse for Gronk.
Yeah, I mean,
he probably doesn't get drafted by the Patriots, which means he's probably not the GOAT tight end because he's not matched up with the GOAT quarterback, which means, he's not a 3-time, maybe even 4-time, I think, with the Bucks Super Bowl.
I think so.
I actually have it up right here. Yeah, 4-time Super Bowl champion. Like, it'll probably hurt Gronk's career. He might not be a Hall of Famer if that happens, but he might
just be another elite talented tight end that couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
Yeah. It's crazy, the trickle-down effect of that. Going into number 4, if that's number 5, that number 4 better be juicy, right? And number 4, what if Arizona does not blow a 20-point lead to California in 1993 season? The loss for the Wildcats, the Wildcats went up 20-0 in 1993 on Cal. They, of course, were set to be in control of the Pac-10 title, which is ultimately what leads you to play in the Rose Bowl. We all know that Arizona has never played in a Rose Bowl. That's pretty common knowledge at this point.
But we've also outlined that they could have played in a bunch of Rose Bowls
for sure. That's why we're What If University, Kevin. But Arizona does not blow this 20-point lead. They do not lose the tiebreaker to UCLA at the end of the season. There was a 3-way tie at the top. UCLA, USC, and Arizona all had 2 losses in conference. If Arizona had not lost to Cal, they would only have 1 loss in conference. They would have made the first Rose Bowl in program history, and the Rose Bowl would have set the program up for potential long-term success, given that Dick Tomey coached for 8 more seasons. And if he had a Rose Bowl before those 8 seasons, what is the trickle-down effect? Does Arizona get better recruits? Do more players want to come to Arizona? Does Arizona have a sustained program, as we talked about with Larry Smith, where now all of a sudden in 2025 we're talking about a program that is used to winning, that is expecting to win games, right, at a high level? It really could have changed everything, and it all starts with that 20-0 blown lead to ultimately lose 24-20 to California.
Damn. Yeah,
that one hurts, man.
This one does.
This is one, Kevin. I'm sorry to cut you off. This is one where I am thanking the heavens that I was not alive for this one, because I would be incensed, man.
Yeah.
If you know anything about your boy sitting in the chair here, Damon Dog, I would probably not stop talking about this 20-0 blown lead for I don't know, my entire life.
Probably until you can't talk anymore.
Yeah, literally. Someone would probably
muzzle you.
Yeah, genuinely. I mean, I can't even imagine how angry I would be about that game if I actually got to witness that game.
I mean, oh man. And I think like when you look at the results of this season, like you have that loss to UCLA, whatever, right? You lose by 20 there, but then you rebound at home with a 21-point victory over Oregon, and then you're rolling into Cal, and you're thinking, we're tough. We got this. And you go up 20, and you're like, oh, this is barbecue chicken, Ernie. This is about to be 29-0, like it's going to be in a couple weeks of the Fiesta Bowl. We just don't know it yet. And then you come out and blow that. This is an interesting what if, because this is a team that went on to smash Arizona State 34-20 in the next game, and then shut out Miami in the Fiesta Bowl 29-0 in that game. But my point with all this is if they don't lose that game to Cal, I don't even care about the score on the scoreboard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about like the mentality. Like you're entering this game thinking you're pretty much damn invincible outside of the one mistake we had against UCLA. And then you choke a 20-point lead, and I'm assuming that invincibility is gone. You know what I mean? Like that invincibility is done. It's dead. But they're able to rebound and finish the season on a high. But how high could that high have been if the team that just was rolling kept rolling? And yeah, this one hurts. And I wasn't even born for another almost 20 years.
Kevin,
10 years.
Jeez. If I task you with trying to guess who was on this 1993 UCLA team that stole Arizona's spot in the Rose Bowl, would you be able to name him?
No. Candid? No. Candid. I should? No. Yeah, no.
How about one Brent Brennan? 1993 Rose Bowl appearance for our current head coach, Brent Brennan. No Rose Bowl appearance for the Arizona Wildcats in the history of its long tenured program.
Wow. I
Tucson.
feel like I should have, not to cut you off, but I feel like I mentally,
I thought you were going to be able to get it.
I'm messing myself up
but
right
it's
now.
fine. You didn't even put up a shot.
No, because I'm thinking like, oh, this is about to be like all-time
the
great
rock.
football player that I didn't know went to UCLA. So I'm thinking like, who are the GOATs that like went to UCLA that I didn't know about?
Mm-hmm.
And Brent Brennan slipped my Rolodex. And that's on me, Arizona Wildcat fandom. That's on me. On me. Hand up, accountability.
That's a tough one, man. That's
is.
a toughie, especially when you see that your current coach was on the team that benefited from your tie-breaking defeat. Because nothing hurts more than not making a Rose Bowl because of a damn tiebreaker, man.
Yeah.
That's disgusting. But let's get into our top three. Like I said, if our number 4 is going to get me that angry, let's talk about these top 3 because they are brutal. And this was one that I think was probably the most prominent that we saw, Kevin, when you asked the question, what are the biggest what-ifs in Arizona sports history? Brandon Ashley, what if he doesn't break his foot against Cal in that 2013-2014 season? Man. The Arizona Wildcats were 21-0 going into that game. They finished the season, their final 17 games, 12-5 after Brandon Ashley went out. Still a very respectable and good record. You obviously are playing a little bit better teams in that time period because, one of those losses was a loss to UCLA in the conference tournament game. One of those losses was a loss to Wisconsin in the Elite Eight. But as that aforementioned Wisconsin game happens, Caleb Tarczewski gets into foul trouble in that Elite Eight game. He has to go to the bench. Arizona doesn't have a good avenue to defending Frank Kaminsky in that game. Frank Kaminsky goes on to score 28 points, goes on to have 11 rebounds. Yeah, man. Arizona probably is the favorite to win the national title, given that they were the number 1 team in the country for 6 weeks running at that point, at that point in the season. I think most Arizona fans would agree with the notion that this might have cost Arizona a national championship.
And that's why it's top 3 on our list. Like I think if Arizona was not as dominant as they were that season with Brandon Ashley on the team, then they were without him, I think this what if is probably top 8 on our list.
Yeah.
But I think that they were so good, so dominant, and you could so easily draw the line between a fully healthy Arizona and a cutting down of the Nets in a national title.
Yeah.
That this what if, it was a lot of people's number 1 with a bullet. It was a lot of people's, I think some people's response to our post, and I'm saying this in jest. I'm not saying that they were being haters on us, but I'm saying I think their reaction was why are we even doing a top 10? Number 1 is Brandon Ashley, and we can just forget the rest. And I think that is kind of an embodiment of the point that you're making with assuming that Arizona could have won the national championship. It's not a long leap that you got to make to get there. If Brandon Ashley is healthy that season, it is totally reasonable to assume that Arizona goes on to win a national championship that year. It's not like they were one of the best teams. It's not like they were, hot at the right time. And then he goes out with an injury and it cools the team off.
Yeah.
We're talking about invincibility. We're talking about undefeated record going into that injury. And then you lose that game in which he gets injured. And after that, you're trying to make up for production, and now you have to reassess your lineup, and now you have to reassess your scheme, and it changes everything for the team, even if he's not your star, right?
Short rotation. Team had 7 players that it played,
Yes.
and Brandon Ashley losing one of those 7 players was massive, man.
And you still went 12-5 after he went out.
Absolutely. I actually got it wrong. It was 8 weeks running that the Arizona Wildcats were the number 1 team in the country. which is a pretty large chunk of the season, man. And I really do feel that Arizona was the best team that year. I mean, there are plenty of years in Arizona Wildcats history where the Wildcats were the best team and they didn't get the job done. But that one hurts in particular. And it really feels that if Brandon Ashley could have played in that game, that, maybe he's not the Frank Kaminsky stopper, but sometimes you just need to put a different look on a guy, put an extra body on a guy, foul a guy a couple more times, right? You have 5 more fouls to play with if Brandon Ashley is playing for Arizona at that point in the season. And Arizona plays an 8-man rotation there, in that game with Elliott Pitts and Jordan Mays, who were 2 players that didn't factor in all that much, but they had to find bodies to get out there. But they mostly just played 6 guys 30-plus minutes. And, it would have been helpful to have that 7th man to go to. I know that one was one that scarred Arizona fans throughout history. But we're going to move on to number 2 here, what if in Arizona Wildcats history. And this is another one that we were given a lot of suggestions for, Kevin. What if Jay Williams was called for that first half foul where he jumped on Jason Gardner's back and Jason got a free piggyback ride? Would have been his 3rd foul of the first half. He finished with 4 personal. Newsflash. +1 is 5. Newsflash. That means he fouls out. And the Arizona Wildcats go on to probably win their 2nd national title in just 5 seasons, which sets them up with an elite company of programs that has multiple national championship victories.
This is a crazy one. I think this is one that Jay Williams still gets asked about this call to this day.
He can't come to Tucson without people putting it on posters and screaming it at him and whatnot. And that's coming from current Zona Zoo participants who were not nearly the requisite age to have truly watched that live. People will just never forget, man. And I think that to make this even broader, this number 1 or this number 2, I think that you would just say, what if the refs didn't screw Arizona in the 2001 national championship game?
I did not pull this video for a variety of reasons, but I was watching a video of a fan of Arizona walking up to Jay Williams. It was honestly a very strange video. I'm not going to lie to you. I implore you to go find it after. But he walks up to Jay Williams and he's like, "Hey, I forgive you for that no call." And Jay Williams is like, "Okay." And the guy is like, what do you remember about that game? And Jay Williams, and I want to bring this up because I think you're going to get a laugh out of it. He starts his diatribe by saying, "Oh yeah, I remember I rode Jason Terry like Sagittarius or whatever the hell." And I was just like, what is going on in this video? And then he continues to say, and this is the juicy part. He continues to say, and he's joking, but
Secretariat.
Yeah, Secretariat. Thank you.
Sagittarius is where you're.
That's a sign or something.
Yeah.
Thank you though. But I he goes on to say, "I can neither confirm nor deny if we encourage the refs to help us out in that game." I'm like, what? I hate that. I hate that you're doing. You win the game. You benefit from the no call. You benefit. Let me look at you. You benefit from the bad refereeing, and then you're going to joke about it in our face? You're going to dance on our grave? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
You think that he was BSing when he said that, or you think he was being serious?
But that's what I'm saying.
With the way that the game went, that wouldn't shock me at all.
But that's why it's so infuriating, Damon, is because you don't know. And because you can look at the game and be like, it looks like a team that paid the refs. And then they're going to joke about, well, I don't know. Did we pay the refs? It's like, I don't know. Did you? Why did
you even bring that up? It's classic Coach K ball, right? He probably got them in a room before the game and just said, "Hey, guys, let's call this game right, huh?
Yeah. Let's call this one right, guys.
We all know Shane Battier is the best defender in the damn country."
This is a pretty good Coach K.
Just scumbaggery going on in that 2001 national championship. Man. Shane Battier, of course, like I said, we want to make it a little bit more broader sense. Shane Battier, as I just said, he did have the reputation of being the best defender in college basketball, which meant he could get away with blatant, cold-blooded murder out on the court. And because of that, Shane Battier didn't have wasn't in a ton of foul trouble in that game. Jason Williams should have been in a bunch of foul trouble in that game, but got away with it. Just an altogether probably should have been the Arizona Wildcats. It's hard to say even that probably should have been, because that Duke team was loaded, man. It really was. They were a deserving national champion. When you look at their roster, they were unbelievable. I'm trying to find it here. The 2001 Duke team had Shane Battier, Carlos Boozer, Chris Duhon, Mike Dunleavy, Dante Jones, who actually redshirted, and Jay Williams, who, didn't have the NBA career because of his accident, but was a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. Like, you have 5 legitimate 10-year NBA players on that team. That's nothing to like slag off. That being said, Arizona also had talent in its own right. They had Lauren Woods, one of the best centers in college basketball. They had Michael Wright, who had a very, very long career overseas, and rest in peace, my brother. But they also had Richard Jefferson, Jason Gardner, who was an All-American. Richard Jefferson, who was a long-tenured NBA veteran, probably had the best career of, maybe not. He's up there if you're comparing any of those Duke guys. I think it's him or Shane Battier, probably, right? If you're comparing there.
Kind of real quick, side note on the comparison thing. It's funny because I was going to say, like, well, if you're comparing them all, RJ has probably the most iconic championship out of all of them. He took part in it. But then Shane Battier, he would like a word. He would like a real strong word about that. So
they both rode LeBron's coattails.
Yes, exactly.
Shane Battier was a little bit more impactful at that point in his career than Richard Jefferson was. Richard Jefferson, I think, was a better player at his peak than Shane Battier was in the NBA. Like, Richard Jefferson was on the Nets finals team that was, as a starter, as a
impact.
He made an all-star game for the Nets. So it's not like he wasn't a stud. Shane Battier, a little bit more of a role player, played for some good Rockets teams, and then ultimately played for the Miami Heat. And he did hit 6 3-pointers in Game 7 of the NBA Finals to win it against San Antonio in what is maybe the greatest finals in NBA history. So, he had his moments in the long run, but Gilbert Arenas is probably the peak for peak, the best player in the NBA on the court in that game. And he, of course, had an injury that he sustained in that NCAA tournament that probably he played like dog crap in that game. He played bad, I think, in lead up to that game, and it was because he had a bad injury. If Gilbert Arenas was fully healthy, did things change for him? Did things change for this Arizona team going into that game? I really just think that the biggest what if, we boil it down to Jay Williams jumping on Jason Gardner's back. In reality, the big what if is, what if Arizona got the job done and won the 2001 national championship? And by the way, I didn't even mention Luke Walton was also on that team.
Yeah.
10-year NBA veteran off the bench.
And, we were talking a lot about the caliber of players and the individuals' lives that could have changed. Let's take it out more macro, right? The program as a whole would be, I'm confident to say, dramatically different. Although you still have a lot of success by making it to the national championship. And Arizona as a brand for men's basketball is certainly not hurting these days as a result of this loss. But that is an elite group of programs that have 2 or more national championships. And Arizona would be able to say that they did it in less than a decade, in less than half a decade, actually about half a decade exactly.
And then you never know what that catapults you into doing in the long run. Like in 2004, 2005, when Salim Stoudemire and Channing Frye are on that team, does that make Arizona the favorites to win that national championship? Because that would have been 3 in 8 years or 3 in 7 years or whatever it is.
Do you have another supplementary piece that you've recruited as a result of them wanting to join the best team in the country that you compare with Channing Frye and company, right? Like, this is a huge what if for like Duke. I think you could have even said this in the moment, but like Duke, they're going to be back. Like, if they lose, they're going to be back. But I think, like, as good as Arizona was as a program at that time, you can't guarantee that they're going to be able to replicate this kind of success. 2 national title runs in 5 years is unheard of in a way. You know what I mean? And I shouldn't say unheard of like it's never happened, but you don't hear about it happening very often, right?
And if you win a third, what does that make you? It puts you in blue blood category.
Immortal.
Like, you're UNC, you're Duke, you're Kentucky, it's Arizona, and that's like Kansas.
And to our point, Arizona is in that, I'll say as a brand, I think recruiting-wise is in that echelon today, right? They're able to compete with those brands today. Yeah. I think, like, we're not even having a conversation of, like, should Arizona be competing with this team for this recruit? It's like, should that team be competing with Arizona for this recruit if they're able to pile up all this success? Not to mention the effects it would have on Lute Olson's legacy as well as a coach. Already one of the most well-renowned, well-respected, beloved head coaches of not just his generation, but of the entire sports history.
And I think
if he was able to, if he was able to continue to pile accolades on top of all the goodwill and accolades he had already piled up at that point, we're not talking like We're not talking about Lute Olson as like maybe one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time. We're talking about Lute Olson as like cemented immortal of the game that changed college basketball when he was in Tucson. Like, it's a crazy what if.
Yeah.
And it does lead into our next one, but I want to keep talking about this one where you have the floor.
Well, all I was going to say is that I think that, Lute Olson is probably one of the more underrated all-time coaches in college basketball because people don't necessarily think about Arizona as much, and he only does have the one national title, which is, a little bit smaller number than maybe some of the other people that you would be putting into that category. I think that Lute Olson is potentially on the Mount Rushmore of all-time college basketball coaches if he has multiple national titles, and that's where the what if, kind of leads into our number one.
Whoa.
And I don't even think that there was a discussion as to what number one should be. What if Lute Olson never left Iowa and never was hired as Arizona's head coach in 1983? Kevin, we have a lot on this. We have a lot of backstory, a lot of history when it comes to this. But to boil it down, the University of Iowa reached their first Final Four in the year 1980 under the tutelage of Lute Olson. 3 years later, he's joining a team that had 4 W's all season, 1 in conference. Shout out Ben Lindsay, GCU legend.
Won the lawsuit, Ben Lindsay, by the way.
I realized I was today years old when I realized GCU was a school back then.
Yeah. I learned that this past weekend doing background for this.
I had no idea that he was, I've known the name Ben Lindsay. I knew that he got fired. I didn't know he was GCU's coach prior to joining Arizona. I didn't know GCU existed back then.
Yeah.
But you bring in Lute Olson, right? He takes over a struggling program and leaves a really, really sustainable one that he had built to that point. He said that life had become a fishbowl at Iowa and he needed to get the hell out of, where is it? Not Ames. Ames
Des Moines.
is Iowa State. Des Moines. Get me the hell out of Des Moines. Get me to the great city of Tucson, Arizona, where he would spend the rest of his life, right? Not a fishbowl in Tucson, but yes, a fishbowl in Des Moines.
A birria bowl.
Yeah, birria bowl for sure. But, you probably don't win that 1997 national championship. Does it hurt the other sports on campus, Kevin? Having that national brand that is Arizona, trickle down success right to and make the university cool, make students want to come to this school. You mentioned to me, Kevin, when we were talking this through, that you yourself don't come to the University of Arizona if the basketball program is not what it is. It made it cool for you. It made you want to attend the school. It made you sign up for the loads and loads of debt that you are now in due to going out of state rather than going straight to a state school or whatever, like I chose to do in order to try to save money. But that doesn't happen if Lute Olson doesn't make Arizona basketball what it is, doesn't make the University of Arizona cool, and ultimately doesn't make Arizona, if you wouldn't mind bringing the graphic up one more time, that national brand that we have come to see, an even international brand, right? You see with Luka Doncic saying he would go to Arizona without even really thinking about it, right? Like, Arizona is becoming more and more of an international brand. You have a bar in Spain that Leah Merrill, our head of content, found when they went when her and Shane Diefenbach, our head of production, were out there visiting Spain. They went to a literal University of Arizona bar in Spain.
Shane must have loved that. Traveling all the way to Europe. No, I'm saying like traveling all the way to Europe and then finding a bar and you're like, oh, it's a college sports bar?
I think Shane thought it was pretty damn cool.
No, I'm sure like the sports fan in him loved that, but I'm saying like you travel all the way, you go on vacation away from Kevin and Damon, and then you travel all the way to Europe, to Spain, and you're hearing Bear Down, Arizona. Like you're hearing it coming from outside a bar and you're like, is that Bear Down, Arizona in Spanish? What the hell is going on? And then you walk in, you're like, all right, this is pretty cool, but also like I can't believe I can't escape the University of Arizona brand because it is everywhere. It is international.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I just think that things change so drastically for this, not only this basketball program, but for this institution as an entire whole. Because Lute Olson made Arizona cool. Lute Olson made Arizona basketball exactly what it is. And Lute Olson didn't have to leave Iowa to do what he did in the college basketball world. He could have done that at Iowa, but he chose to come to Arizona. He chose to come to Tucson. And man, did it change everything for us and our fan base. And, what if Lute Olson doesn't leave Iowa? Two of us are probably not doing the same job that we're doing right now, brother.
I was just, you actually stole the next point right out of my brain. Because I was going to say, like, as unfortunate as it may be to say, and some people that are listening right now might hate to hear me say this, and you might disagree with me, but if Lute Olson is never hired as the head coach at the University of Arizona men's basketball program, I don't think enough people care about the U of A for you and me to be doing a podcast every day of the week for an hour and a half. Talking about the school that we love so much. You alluded to it, but he wasn't joking. I told Damon pre-show, I literally would not have gone to the University of Arizona if not for the basketball history that it had. I had like 2 or 3 requirements when I was searching for schools. 1, could I get in with my low GPA? 2, is it, a rich man's dream for me to go to this school? And 3, do they have sports history that I give a damn about? You know what I mean? Like not curling. Do they have the best club curling team of all time? I could give a damn. Do they have a great either football history or basketball history that I can really throw myself into, represent? And I think that, the biggest macro what if for this, we can get into the one tier lower of like Arizona would be one of the biggest brands in basketball. Arizona would be dominating everything for the whole time that Lute Olson was here. Hell, Lute Olson might even stay longer if he was winning a little bit more at Arizona. Who knows what happens? The butterfly effect is crazy. Point being though, with all of it, the biggest macro thing, like you said, Lute Olson made Arizona cool. Like Lute Olson made Arizona not even cool, relevant. Because there are a ton of, as you like to say, swagless schools that people care a lot about, right? But I think Lute Olson got you in the door to care, and then he kept you by showing you how cool Tucson is and how cool Arizona, the university, can be. And I think, when we're talking about doing this podcast and how awesome it would be if they did win that national championship from rank number 2 and they were able to parlay that into being one of the best programs in the sports history at the college level, that's all fine and good that we get to root for that and we get to represent that. But ultimately, like you said, the trickle-down effect of the university's success is huge because Arizona doesn't have the consistent football program. Shout out to Larry Tucson. They don't have that. You know what I mean? And having that consistent success, having that consistent income for your programs helps you secure Mike Candrea, helps Mike Candrea succeed. I know the timelines are all, but you get my point with all of this, right? Like the trickle down effect is real, and it doesn't really take a very smart person to outline how Lute Olson's success really built the campus that we stand on today. I know that's a crazy statement. It's a crazy one. I'm out there. I'm on the plank being crazy again. But like Lute Olson, this is the biggest what if for the entire, in athletics, the entire school, and it's not close, in my opinion, because Lute Olson is Tucson. Lute Olson is Arizona. You know what I mean? And I think we would be remiss to have anything else outside of our number 1 spot, outside of the great Lute Olson.
Yeah. I mean, Lute Olson, frankly, and this is simply put, and there's zero argument to be had about this. I will not take any sort of argument. Lute Olson built what is by far the most sustainable and nationally relevant sports entity in this state, without question.
In the state, yeah,
without question. We are already massive, giant losers in the state of Arizona. If you like these teams, the Cardinals are horrific. They're one of the worst teams in the history of the National Football League. The Suns have a good record and are always relevant, but can't win a title to save their lives. The Diamondbacks have a couple purple patch seasons and mostly are mediocre to bad. The Arizona ASU is a nothing athletic department that no one cares about, that their fan base is apathetic to. And, maybe Kenny Dillingham is their version of Lute Olson. That's disgusting, but maybe they're in their renaissance right now, but they have, Frank Kush built something special for them in the 70s, and then it completely fell apart. Lute Olson built something special for Arizona in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and it sustained because he built a sustainable team. He built a sustainable program. And Lute Olson is I think, probably the number 1, I would say, person in this entire state from a sporting standpoint of if we were building a Mount Rushmore of Arizona, all of the state of Arizona sports,
the Freedom State,
Lute Olson has to be, I think, number 1 on that Mount Rushmore because he is far and away the greatest figurehead that this state has ever seen.
Extremely well said. I don't know if I could have said it better myself. I think I might have tried, and I think I failed. But no, you did it wonderfully there. And I think you know,
I thought you were preaching, brother.
If we pull up this Lute Olson graphic one more time, the international brand thing we've touched on, the basketball success thing we've touched on, the lack of success to the university thing we have touched on. One last thing on the Lute Olson topic that I want to really touch on is like the impact on the actual city of Tucson. Like I mentioned it in my rant there, but like I think it cannot be lost that like he made Tucson cool as well.
Absolutely.
Like Tucson is a place that, as you and I know, living in Phoenix now, people love to make fun of Tucson. Totally unwarranted, totally unfounded jokes, but they love to make fun of Tucson. And I think like if you look down during that time of what Lute Olson is doing, ain't no way you're being like, oh, why would they go to Tucson? It's like, oh, maybe they have the best program in the country. Maybe the city's cooler than you give it credit for. Maybe Lute Olson's onto something. And I think like if you're a guy like Lute Olson that just wants to get out of a fishbowl like Iowa, like Des Moines, Iowa, and you end up in Tucson, I think a lot of people that don't know any better would make a joke and be like, so you went from one fish bowl to another one? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was joking about the Birria Bowl, like, whatever, but, like, it shows that Tucson is way more than you think it is, and it shows, more importantly, for what we do, that you can build very successful, very sustainable athletic programs there in Tucson that can sustain the city in a way. So, yeah, I mean, there are not enough words to summarize this number one what if, because what if Lute Olson doesn't come to Arizona? None of us are here in the chat today. Fact. We kind of all in a way, if you like sports in Tucson, if you follow sports in Tucson, if you cover sports in Tucson, if you watch sports and play sports, if you are into athletics in Tucson, at least a toe is standing on Lute Olson's shoulder in some way. So, yeah, that's my rant over.
Easily the number one what if in Arizona Wildcats history. We're doing these what ifs all week long here on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel. If you like any of the other teams as much as you like the Arizona Wildcats, make sure you tune in for those. Already done the Cardinals one, and we got more on the horizon. But to round out our top five, we got number 5, Gronk doesn't sit out the 2009 season with injury. For number 4, we got what if the Arizona Wildcats do not blow a 20-point lead to Cal in 1993. They ultimately would make the Rose Bowl. What if Brandon Ashley didn't break his foot in 2014? Do the Wildcats go on to win the national championship? What if Jay Williams was called for a foul for his piggyback ride that he received from Jason Gardner? And what if Lute Olson was never hired to the University of Arizona? What if he stayed in Iowa?
Can I just say, for most of these, I'm pretty happy we're not living in these universes. For some of them, I'm like, damn, what if? You know what I mean? Hence the thing above my head.
The 1993 one. If I was alive for that, that would keep me up at night every single day. And
that would stick right here for the rest of your life. If you're here in this
chat and you watched that and witnessed that live, I apologize. I just, from the sincere bottom of my heart, I don't know how you're still with us. I don't know how you're still with us in this chat, caring about Arizona basketball, caring about Arizona football. Like that probably would break me personally. But shout out to everybody for being here in this chat. As I already said, like this video if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to the channel. You can follow me at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. And you can follow my guy Kevin Thomas at KevoPost. Of course, follow our account at PHNX_Wildcats. And check out all the great stuff that we have going on our YouTube channel at PHNX Sports. Kevin, that's going to do it for us today on a Tuesday. Appreciate everybody for being here, rocking with us for a little bit of a late episode of the AZ Wildcats podcast, but we will be back at our normal, regularly scheduled time tomorrow, 2 p.m. Make sure that you guys are there for that one. Until then, in the meantime, drop a like on this video, and we will catch you then. Peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats. What if I just didn't end the show?
We all silly like the mayor.